Santanu. Thanks a lot for joining for this chat today. And I want to, start you by asking, now that enterprises have dealt with the initial challenges of keeping the lights on and ensuring business continuity. What do you think are the next set of challenges, to ensure long-term growth and stability?
Yeah, so look, I'm not going to pretend that I know things and what's going to happen in the future, but these last few months, as you would agree, has just been unprecedented for governments across the world, as well as enterprises and customers and all kinds of businesses. And what we see is really this has resulted in the public cloud like AWS is up for grabs in an even more larger way with our customers. And so be it talking about applications as a part of the digital transformations. Zoom, for example, has had a lot of usage, and large part of Zoom's infrastructure runs on AWS. Amazon.com has had increased deliveries in this time for obvious reasons, and large part of Amazon's infrastructure runs on AWS. We are just blown away with the level of usage of our intelligent contact center or call center solution that has uptaken with customers. And even more so, the collaboration tools and suite from workspaces to work docs to Amazon Chime to AWS chatbot and so on and so forth. So all around, there are really multiple dimensions, not one, in which customers are accelerating their cloud journey even more than before as a result of these challenges to address.
As we are looking at, enabling the future growth and stability for businesses, going forward, I want to come specifically to AWS Outposts. Where does AWS Outposts really fit into that strategy of enabling that future growth and stability for organizations?
We believe that in the fullness of time, very few customers, if any, will have really large data center local footprints because they see the value prop of the AWS cloud and a public cloud, and they will continue to move workloads to the public cloud over a period of time. What we heard from customers was that they have applications as of today that require extremely low single-digit millisecond latencies and have local data processing in-house requirements. In addition, there are applications which have requirements for integrating with legacy applications, which is x86, RISC, Unix-based applications, mainframe, stuff like that. And in order to do that, they required local processing in-house inside the data centers. And what they told us was procuring those same, static hardware from their other vendors did not give them the flexibility and scalability of the AWS cloud. And so with AWS Outposts, what we're doing is basically extending our public region capabilities in Mumbai in India to our customers on-premise so that they actually end up getting the same seamless infrastructure and the same APIs that they've been used to for years. And the other advantage is because it's a seamless extension, there's no requirement for upskilling of their staff or the developers or their IT panel because they're basically going to use the same interface that they've been using for years. The only difference being that the Outpost rack is going to sit inside their on-premise data center for those certain applications. But on the console or the API, it will look exactly similar and seamless.
Okay, so who do you think are the ideal candidates for AWS Outposts? Is it organizations who are initiating their cloud journey, or those who already have a cloud footprint, or is it both of them?
Yeah, I would probably refer to the last bit you said, which is basically a bit of both. So think about use cases in the manufacturing world, right? Automation, factory floors, which have a lot of IoT and connected process systems in the modern world. These are companies that require local processing capabilities. They've always wanted to do it on the cloud, but because of latency requirements and real-time processing required to be done close by, exactly in the same floor, they probably couldn't do it. And with Outpost, that makes a perfect use case where they could actually use the compute offering to do this processing real-time. Think about Philips Healthcare, which was a beta customer last year, and they've gone publicly saying how AWS Outpost has really helped them extend the AWS cloud capabilities, which they were using for a long time, to now taking diagnostics and patient data and processing them in real time so that medical practitioners, doctors can get the outputs immediately. To even media and entertainment companies who do a lot of processing of rendering and VFX use cases in-house, and they require a lot of GPU intensive, graphic intensive hardware and compute capacity on premise. And so those companies and use cases can actually now do the same use cases on Outpost, with the added advantage that it's seamlessly extended to the AWS region in Mumbai, in India.
So while these use cases that you're speaking about are completely valid use cases, do you think that AWS Outposts, can also be is a way out for companies that might be afraid to go all in on the cloud to start experimenting with a cloud-like environment? Do you think that will be also a use case? AWS
I think, yeah, well, not really exactly. The customers that we've spoken to, I joined AWS about 9 years ago, and I remember those days when I had to go in, speak to customers, and explain what cloud computing is. Today, 9 years from now, when I join, it's really a given. It is a new normal, and most companies, irrespective of this new normal that we are seeing and otherwise, expect their move to public cloud anyway. I guess the difference was there are certain really, genuine blockers that they faced in the past in terms of near real-time processing requirements on-premise, or dependencies on legacy applications that they have not solved, and they were challenging to have them move towards the AWS public cloud. And so that, and the acceleration of those use cases and applications will definitely happen, we believe, with AWS Outposts, because we just work backwards from our customers asking for that.
What about organizations that are heavily regulated, like for instance banks, insurance companies, healthcare, where there was a certain restraint in moving to public cloud? Do you think that this will be an ideal kind of a solution for those kind of industry segments?
Yeah, so first of all, we did not announce Outpost or build this offering specifically and explicitly to actually address data sovereignty and data residency laws. Now, if customers have on-premise applications which they continue to host on Outpost, the data of those applications and those applications remain on-premise within Outpost. However, there are certain metadata information which is monitoring those systems, instance IDs, tagging information that still goes back and forth with the AWS region. So depending on the regulators and what the customers understand of the regulatory applications which apply to them, on a use case to use case basis, customers can evaluate them and then basically take the decision on whether that actually solves the data sovereignty, data residency requirement. So it's not really a binary answer. It depends on the use case, etc.
So with AWS Outpost, you're actually installing a rack of hardware inside a customer's data center. So like, does it in a way contradict the very premise of public cloud? Just a question. How does that really fit in with that?
Yeah, so the AWS Outpost that we're announcing today should not be confused with just any hardware which is disconnected and offline. Remember, this is literally a seamless connected extension of the AWS public cloud. In fact, it's a device that you really is not meant to be operated in an offline manner. So if you lose all connectivity, then beyond a certain point, this Outpost device will not operate as an offline hardware. And so what we're offering is not just selling hardware and a rack. It is just an extension of the same compute capability of AWS to customers so that they basically have the same APIs to scale into a public cloud without necessarily having to have frustrating experiences of dealing with vendors, to have 6 to 12 month procurement cycles, installing them, racking them, and basically doing the undifferentiated heavy lifting that they used to do with on-premise hardware, versus here where AWS Personal will actually rack and stack that. And once it's connected, everything is managed automatically and remotely via our same APIs.
So how do you ensure a seamless, flow between AWS Outposts as well as the between on-premise and the cloud in this case?
Yes, we do have some prerequisite requirements or pre-requirements for customers signing up for Outpost. Two of them, among others, are that customers should mandatorily sign up for what we call as an enterprise support offering, which basically has a host of credentials, but one of the things that we do is give them a technical account manager and a 15-minute response SLA, because we want to ensure that if customers do get problems with the Outpost, they have help at hand immediately. The other requirement is that customers need to have and use our Direct Connect offering, which is basically a port into which you plug in a lease line, so that you basically have a private connectivity to the AWS region. And the requirements are that you can choose between any 4 variants, 1 Gbps, 10 Gbps, 40 Gbps, or 100 Gbps. depending on your throughput requirements and how much data you're sending, to be connected to the AWS cloud, so that any, I guess, variances over the internet, etc., that you could potentially see with a VPN or open internet might get mitigated because you have a solid line, a redundant line with direct connect. So those are two things that we have as a prerequisite to ensure the connectivity that is seamless is not interrupted for customers.
So one point of contention can be, since AWS Outpost is a rack which is physically installed in the customer's data center, who is responsible for aspects like from a security perspective, who takes up the responsibility of the rack?
Yeah, it's a very valid question. I mean, security, as always, is job zero for us, always has been and always will be. In the AWS region, in the public region, security is a shared responsibility. It's similar with Outpost, but it shifts a little bit. So what we've always said is, in the region, depending on what services are using, generally hypervisor level and below is AWS's responsibility. And anything that is operating system and above is a customer's responsibility. Customers continue to actually operate and own their data in their applications as they have always been. However, the physical proximity, the physical nature of Outpost means that the security responsibility shifts a little bit. So although we actually build our Outpost racks and we use a Nitro chipset inside, which is tamper-proof, we will obviously have the customer be responsible for some part of the physical security of the rack inside the data center, so the cage in which they are, the personnel that they're handling, etc. So that's their own data, and they have their own personal responsible for the physical security. For the services that they operate, which is connected to the AWS cloud, that shared security responsibility again comes into play, where AWS only manages so much in terms of maintenance, software patches to the hypervisor, and everything that is operating system and above is a customer's responsibility, which they continue to own.
So ultimately, going forward, what do you see as the top three drivers for the uptake of AWS Outposts among the Indian companies?
Well, I would say there's lots of variety of use cases, but think about financial services company looking to build core stock trading platforms, which parts of which are done on AWS cloud today in form of various peripheral applications, but because of latency requirements, they may not be able to run the core platform on AWS cloud because they have to be closest to their customers with very, very single low-digit millisecond latency. And we believe those could be some use cases that could run on AWS Outposts. We can talk about telcos, especially with 5G coming, where they could build applications that run on Outpost in high-density malls and technology parks, where consumers and end users using the data connection could continue to seamlessly take services from them, which they host on AWS Outpost, be it gaming or AR, VR technologies, which have high throughput, I guess, media and images and video requirements. And the third one could be manufacturing. India is a big hub for manufacturing as well, which I gave the example earlier, where you have factory floors and remote offices, which require real-time processing in near real-time needs without having to go hop on and off between the AWS cloud, which is in Mumbai. And so having a compute instance, which is an extension of that, literally on that floor next to your machines and software systems, makes a significant difference.
Would you say that AWS Outpost kind of plugs some of the some of the challenges which were there in public cloud around latency, etc., and it kind of gives a truly hybrid cloud experience to the organization?
Yeah, so that was the intent. We would say that because of latency or when dependency reasons of legacy applications, customers wanted a midterm interim solution to actually plug into the AWS public cloud offering, which is what AWS Outpost gives them. Now, you have to remember, AWS Outpost was not the first, it's not the first ever hybrid cloud solution we're giving or offering. VMware, in fact, chose AWS as the first public cloud partner 3 years ago to provide VMware on AWS cloud offerings as a part of their software-defined data centers. In fact, in a near future roadmap, we have VMware on AWS cloud offering coming up in Outpost as well as another offering, apart from the native one that we have launched today for our customers. And as part of hybrid capabilities, we have had direct connect for customers to plug in to a port to extend the lease lines, a VPC with VPN connection as a part of our hybrid offerings, And in the future, depending on customer needs, to make it seamless and remove all friction, we will continue to iterate in this space. So watch out.
Okay, so is it an do you look at AWS Outpost as an interim solution that actually is the interim solution between that ultimately migrates our customers to the public cloud?
So look, midterm to long term, we believe that totally if they have to really leverage the power of the public cloud, most customers, if not all, will start to modernize their applications, their legacy applications, to make it truly cloud native. And which is what we're seeing with a lot of customers. And so Outpost is just that interim solution within that journey. And in some cases, it could take years for certain organizations to modernize those applications to actually be fit for AWS public cloud. Until then, we will continue to expand on our hybrid offerings to actually solve that exact problem, to make it seamless for customers.
Great. Thanks, Santanu. That was a great interview. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.